paid 12 or 16 cents, reached up, went in, and maybe that's where this film got started. It was scared, you know, altered me forever, and I'm still scared.
You know, it's interesting, like, the fact that you're so versatile and that you can make, like, Westerns, sci-fi, horror. You were gonna make Star Trek?
Yeah.
You were gonna get the first Star Trek feature in the 70s, right?
The first Star Trek feature.
I mean, in the 70s, was that just something that a young up-and-coming filmmaker was kind of like being given, or was that by design?
Yeah, that was sort of, you know, they didn't think anything of it at the studio, and a producer named Jerry Eisenberg, who knew I might have been able to add something interesting to it, asked me if I'd do it, and you know, it had only been the TV show, of course, and you know, a lot of people thought, oh, nothing could be done with that. I thought something could be done with that, and I spent a good part of a year, or maybe more, trying to find a way to make it a feature, but I didn't want to fall into what the TV show was. I wanted to take some of those themes and make a big feature, a big screen thing out of it, and I really wanted to center it around Dr. Spock. That's how I first met Leonard Nimoy, and I wanted to have him up against Toshiro Mifune, and you know, in Mind Games, a couple of things happened. One was that I went to a Star Trek convention. It was over in the East Bay, and they gave me and some others the wrong address, so we went to Berkeley, and I met another guy wandering around named Theodore Sturgeon, who was a great writer. We took a taxi over to Oakland, where this was the early Trekkie conventions. Everybody was dressed up, and my wife Rose was sitting way in the back behind people with large tentacles sort of waving back and forth. And it came my turn to be on the stage, and they, you know, brought me down in a hail of tinsel and everything. And I was standing there on the stage, and Rose, sitting behind these people, heard them say, "Couldn't they have gotten somebody better?" I guess I didn't have the right look. But anyway, we were ready to do it. I remember being up all night. And my friend George Lucas was doing Star Wars. Spielberg was close behind with Close Encounters, and we had gone to London to scout the movie, and I had some of George's people, Ralph McQuarrie and different people. But when we got to London, the people at Fox were just saying that, well, we just had this film called Star Wars here, and it's a piece of crap. And they pulled the plug on it, as some of you may know, and then George and his producer had to spend 2 days quickly getting enough pieces together on two different stages with cameras so they could come home and put a film together. But anyway, I was up, I remember being up all night, and I figured out how to make this movie that I wanted to make. And about 8 in the morning, I got a call from the producer saying, "It's canceled. The head of the studio says there's no future in science fiction."
Nice. But you can pivot to invade. Is that when you pivoted to Invasion?
Well, somehow, you know, I was part of a young group of young guys. I mean, W.D. Richter, who wrote it, was a friend of mine. I mean, you know, I knew, you know, George and Scorsese and Walter Hill. There were all, John Milius. There were all kinds of young people. It was a very exciting time. William Friedkin I'd gone to high school with. He was a couple years older than me, but a great friend. And so they offered me Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Bob Solo called, you know, just maybe not even knowing or appreciating what I had done. But I said no. I didn't want to do it at first because I didn't want to do a remake of something. And Don Siegel was a friend of mine. When I did Great Northfield, Minnesota Raid at Universal, I was in a bungalow with, it was a great bungalow. Don Siegel was there, Abraham Polanski, John Sturgis, Stanford Whitmore, and, you know, it was just, you know, it was an acropolis of filmmakers. It was wonderful, and I got to be good friends with Don, and I loved Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but you know, especially back then, people weren't doing sequels. I mean, or remakes. I mean, remakes. But you know, I talked with Bob Solo and W.D. Richter, who was a really smart guy, and we spent, you know, I said, okay, maybe, you know, now we're getting paid. We just spent days sitting around saying, what if we did this? What if we did that? And then it went over to, I think it was United Artists. Anyway, Mike Medavoy, who had been my agent, he said, called me up and he said, I want to do this. And I said, well, I'm not sure, Mike, if I really want to do it because you know, Don's a friend of mine, you know, and he said, if you know, I'll give you 24 hours to do it. So I thought about that. I said, well, what if I did sort of a re-envisioning of it? And, you know, I talked to Rick. What if we, instead of placing it in a small town, put it into a city where, you know, small towns in the 40s and 50s were a place of, you know, the Birds. Hitchcock was shooting small towns. Those were places of paranoia. But here, in the 60s and 70s, the cities were filled with paranoia. And then I thought, well, if I could take that theme and apply it to the place I love most, and see if it could work there, and to see if it could work with characters like the people I loved most, and maybe ultimately, I'm Donald Sutherland in the movie too. Maybe we always have to be tested to see if we are drifting into falling asleep and becoming pods.
I mean, I'd like to think that like only people who love their city know how to make the right horror film about it. You know.
Yeah. Well, but you know what I felt the test had to be not. I loved Don's film, but it was, you know, thrown into a political. When I first saw it, I think I was either in high school or early college, and would talk about, is it anti-Stalinist? Is it anti-McCarthy? And the characters seemed a little bit generic, you know, and the town seemed, didn't seem like a special pulsating place that I was, you know, more interested in character development. And was there any humor? So I did go right at that point, and I talked to Don Siegel, who was at, I think it was MGM, doing some film. And I was telling him my problems with it. And just as we were talking, Kevin McCarthy poked his head in the door. He was doing another movie there. Don said, this guy is thinking about doing a movie. And I said, yeah, but you know, it's a serious film, but it doesn't grip me. It's you know, people are going to be gripped by what they want to be gripped by, not by what they don't expect to be gripped by. And I thought it could be funny. And Don said, you know, it's strange because we wanted it to be funnier too. And Kevin said, yeah, we had all those good things we wanted to do. And I said, and the ending of the original is everything's going to be okay. The FBI comes in, and you know, it's called a Hollywood ending. And Don said, screw that. I mean, you know, he didn't like that. So in the end, of course, Don Siegel is in my movie, and I feel great that I could pay homage to him.
He's a taxi driver.
He's the taxi driver. And Kevin McCarthy is also in the film.
Yeah. Talk about shooting with Kevin McCarthy, his moment.
Yeah. So I thought if I could combine the two movies, and make it not a remake, not exactly a sequel, but another envisioning of that theme. And in order to do it, I wanted to have Kevin run into San Francisco as if he's been running for 20 years from the time of the first movie, and now he is trying to spread the word of the first movie. They're here, pods are here. So we were shooting in the Tenderloin in San Francisco, which a lot of you probably know is not the safest area, not the greatest area for tourists and stuff. And it's an area where, even when you're shooting a movie, you got to be very careful. The police are very careful about pushing people back. And there are a lot of players around and all kinds of strange people. And so, as you'll see in the scene, Donald Sutherland is driving through the city telling Brooke Adams a joke. And he gets almost to the punchline when suddenly Kevin McCarthy smashes into his windshield and starts screaming, "They're here, they're here." We're rehearsing it. And there's a guy lying in the street, naked, with his head on the curb, sort of watching what we're doing, and nobody wants to move him. And he's just sitting there, and he says, and Kevin's saying, "They're here." He said, "Hey, wait a second." And everybody tenses up because this could be dangerous. He says, "Wasn't you in the first one?" And then he said, "That was the better one."
Because everyone's a critic.
Everyone's a critic. Yeah, we got our first review of the film. We're halfway through the movie.
I'll check to see if he's a member of our association.
Yeah.
Well, no, okay, so, I mean, this person may or may not have ended up as a background extra, but I think this movie is one of the great background extras movies of all time, because you can sit there and pay attention to what the stars are doing, but you are always looking at the back going, that person doesn't look right. That person doesn't look right.
Right. These
people are scary. So can you talk about casting your background extras and how you directed them?
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, like early on in the movie, when things seem relatively at peace, and it seems like it may be more a love story about to blossom between Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams. You see a guy in a suit running, not a jogger, but a guy looking like he's scared running through the streets, and somebody running after him. And just the unsettling thing, you know, was meant to begin to create an inkling of an atmosphere. And what we were going for was that as this haughtiness progresses, eventually you feel everybody in the city has been transformed. And the test of that, as we got toward the end of the film, was that Mike Chapman and I could walk through the city with a camera in a raincoat under his arm, and wherever we looked, you'd see people on a bus just sitting there tired after a day's work. Waiters, people waiting for a bus on the corner, and you felt by then, hopefully, that the city had been quietly transformed. I was just saying, just happened to see the first episode of Pluribus. I don't know if any of you saw that. Vince Gilligan, who's wonderful. I don't know him, but he's a great, I mean, he's one of those guys who, transformed the cinema of staying at home. But not to give things away, but it struck me as I was watching with my grandson Octavio the other night, and I said, that's sort of, I don't want to give, if you haven't seen the movie, but where the next episode of this body, Snatchers, would have gone with Veronica Cartwright.
No, I mean, look, the relevance of this movie now is crazy. I mean, everybody here could probably watch it and think of their own, the thing that resonates with them about it. But specifically back then, what were you and WD Rector thinking about people losing their individuality as it applied to 1977, 78? Was it about hippies and turning into yuppies?
Well, actually, it was about everything. I mean, and Mike Chapman was in on the joke. And it was, it was a time of est and therapies, and the most trustworthy guy in the film is Dr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy, telling people everything's going to be fine. He's in a scene with Tom Luddy, who was, it's filled with my friends. Tom Luddy, who just passed away, who was the head of the Telluride Film Festival, Pacific Film Archives, produced films for Coppola, and knew more about film than anybody, present company excluded. But he really, his wife is played by Leila Goldoni, who, when I first thought of making films, I was living in Italy and I saw Shadows, and she and Ben Carruthers, who had been in my first two Chicago low-budget movies, were the stars of Shadows. And I don't know, there was something about putting her in there, and she is concerned that Tom Luddy has been, there's something wrong. But that's like every marriage, right? What's wrong? Something, he's not the same. That's not the man I married. And
this is what we've been hearing in the news for the last 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. So, but Leonard is the stabilizing, the one you can believe he will be Dr. Kibner, the explainer. You think when the movie is about to be explained. And then during that scene, which is in a bookstore in San Francisco, many of my writer friends were in there. Jeff Goldblum is,
so funny in this.
He is this ultimate San Francisco poet, North Beach. Jeff is, as you all know, uniquely, he's unique. There's, nobody quite like him. You could say he began something that's maybe a character actor in a background of Casablanca, but his delivery, his kind of nervous perception of what the world is like, and as he goes through the book, he's sort of mumbling about Dr. Kibner because he perceives that this kind of therapy is bullshit. And he himself is the only honest man in the movie, and to some degree, and he can spend a whole year just getting one word right. And he's mumbling something about Dr. Kibner, and he passes this beautiful woman who says, "How can you say something like that about a man like Kibner?" And he says, "I'm not saying it about a man like Kibner, I'm saying it about Kibner." And the woman who he's speaking to is my wife Rose, who was, the film was a family, it's friends. It was, that's the way I always wanted to make films, was, not fall into a system, it's not a job, it's, I don't know, the set, just throwing something out when we were doing Unbearable Lightness of Being, and Daniel Day-Lewis and Juliette Binoche and some Czech friends barged their way into a little Czech cafe, and they have a pig with them, and every time they come in and say, I forgot what they say, "Jak se máš," the pig shit. Boom. And the crew would yell, "Zebulon," and this little Moroccan guy would come out with a broom and speak. And this happened like, he'd sweep away the pig shit. My son Peter, who produced, after he was on that film and produced films after that, became best friends with Zebulon and his family, because rather than the studio people, I mean, this guy was a real, he's a Moroccan, real guy, and that's, we're all lucky to be there, and the lowest job can be the one that should be the most respected.
And films should become families. I mean,
and films should become family.
I want to ask about Ben Burtt's work, because this is like right after he did Star Wars, and to my mind, this is equal to that. His sound work here, from the rumble at the beginning, the human screeches, the industrial noises. Can you talk about how you saw sound in this movie?
Yeah, well, Pauline Kael, who I didn't know Pauline, but she went crazy over this movie, and one of her opening lines was in the opening sequence, that's if God had Dolby, that's what he could have done. Something like that. I mean, it was funnier than that. But so Ben, I knew from, all these geniuses were up at Zoetrope in the city and Lucasfilm, and Ben was there were a group of these guys who just knew everything about sound. A lot of them migrated from studios up there, and it would be fun to sit around with them, and somebody would play a door slam, and Ben would say, "Warner Brothers, 1938. And so when it came to the Shriek, Ben spent a lot of time compositing sound. There's pig squeals in there. There's all kinds of strange, otherworldly sounds, some of which, by the way, I threw into the rockets being launched in The Right Stuff, so they become, and Ben was just inventive, but part of a group as well. He was like, the head guy of that. In later movies, I worked with Alan Splett, who was also, there's something so exciting about that. You come down to the studios and these guys are just in little, cubicles doing their work, but up there during that time, it was amazing. And sound mixing, Mark Berger and stuff. I remember once going up to Skywalker Ranch with somebody and walking around. I said, this is like in Seven Samurai, where the townspeople are looking for great swordsmen, and there are guys walking this way and guys walking that way. The music is playing. I said, those are the great sound men that are just walking in front of you. These are the men who changed the sounds of movies and who, they're geniuses. And, they don't get their just due. There's, brilliance. The score of Body Snatchers is done by a friend of mine, who I knew in college, named Denny Zeitlin, who's a shrink. But he's a well-known jazz pianist. And I thought, who better than a psychoanalyst to scare the shit out of people? And so he created, it's one of the best scores. And I asked Denny to do other scores. He was so exhausted by doing this score that he never would do another one. We realized how hard it was. And, to talk to him about, does the score override a scene? Because some scenes, they're crossing, the cattle are crossing in Red River, and you've got the big sweeping score. But other moments of the score are interior to the characters. And, that's, something you do with, and the great composers are looking, Bernard Herrmann and people that are looking, where, what are you getting at? Don't just shoot a scene, or you could shoot a scene basically in a certain way, but can we get deeper in that? The great actors do that. I've worked with so many great actors, and it's just amazing to see how they do that. The last film I did a number of years ago was with Nicole Kidman and Clive Owen, and they would, just do it one way, and then Nicole would just sort of go like this, meaning she had been thinking about, while she was doing it one way, maybe I could do it another way, and we would, without saying cut, back the camera up to start position, she would back up and come out with a new rendition. Joaquin Phoenix, I worked with, and Daniel Day-Lewis, of course, who's just amazing, wonderful.
Well, look, the sad thing is we have to move to the movie, but I feel like we could be sitting here, hearing these stories for another 2 hours.
Could we?
But we can't. My dinner with Philip would be the movie that we should be making right now. But I want to ask one last question, which is, the thing about this movie is that the whole, and a lot of your movies, it's about how personal freedom is sacrosanct, and joining things comes with a cost, but at the same time, life is kind of a combination of both. And I kind of wonder if for you, career in movies has kind of been the same thing, like a balance of freedom, but having to also answer to others.
Yeah.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, that's the pain and the fear. I try to avoid feeling fearful. I feel, I have an undercurrent of fear in the world, that the world is a strange, unholy place, and that you never know. There are many ways that things that induce sleep and make us just want to be part of a thing, and that's fertile ground for filmmaking. It's just that I just didn't want it to be a formula to follow because one in Hollywood, once they find the formula, especially now, and there's great directors around now, people who can do amazing things, and the camera work and every element is great, but they're a little bit, pre-digested and not surprising and not, evocative or mysterious or funny. I mean, I find many of the best artists around are funny. I mentioned to you backstage, I watch a lot of Key and Peele, and those guys are brilliant, and visually and everything, and you just wish there were more, people exploring how to, maybe laughter is going to save it. I don't know, the great comedians don't laugh, they just get the joke. When you're I've been with, like in a car, excuse me for rambling on, with Robin Williams and Harry Shearer riding through San Francisco, and my sides are splitting, neither of them will laugh at the other one.
That's competition to each other. Philip, thank you so much for coming and talking to us and introducing the movie.